It is January 13th, 2016, and I am in Budapest, Hungary. So the migrant crisis is obviously exacting a very heavy economic cost on the various nations in Europe that have been absorbing these gigantic tsunami-sized waves of migrants from the Middle East and other failed societies, primarily guys, because you have to provide them with apartments, room and board, stipend for their entertainment so they're not bored. They can go out and have fun, courtesy of the German state. The German nation is projected to blow its budget surplus on these people, the savings of the nation. But money is money. Money is not the end all and be all of human existence. There is a heavier price that is being exacted throughout Europe, and that price is being exacted from the females of the European continent, from the native European woman. And that is a sexual cost, because attacks are being perpetrated all over the place where these migrants are present. In Cologne, most notably, you have already upwards of 650 criminal complaints, a large percentage, about 45% of which involve sexual assault or rape. 650 in just one night, in an attack that involved upwards of 1,000 Arab and North African men. Now, if you think that this type of behavior is, or in the future will only be limited to a single night in the year, you are so stupid that you may even qualify for a job as the Chancellor of Germany. Because these outrages are going on all over the place, left and right. In Cologne, they have barely identified 12 of the perpetrators. They have some suspects, all of whom are asylum seekers and migrants and Muslims and Arabs. And almost all of the perpetrators are described to belong to that category of people. But if you think that these attacks are just going to be limited to one year and one city, one day of the year and one city in Europe, you're going to be sorely disappointed. And in fact, these attacks have been taking place everywhere in Europe. In Sweden, for example, it just turns out that there was another attempt by the authorities, by the sclerotic, by the morally corrupt European liberal elite. They try to hush things down, but because it involved sexual crimes by migrants, and you can't really talk about that in Sweden because it goes against the prevailing narrative of victimhood that these liberals are so enamored with. But in any event, in Sweden, apparently you have a festival, a music festival, that is very popular with teenagers, and that draws hundreds of thousands of Swedish teenagers to listen to music. And in the course of that music festival, last year and the year before that, there were any number of incidents involving men and young men of Afghan and other Muslim ethnicities just randomly attacking and sexually assaulting Swedish females. native Swedish females. I mean, it's as if these guys can't take their, can't keep their hands to themselves. It's the most bizarre type of behavior. I mean, it's as if they come to Europe with the mentality that Europe is. I mean, I don't know where they get this mentality. Maybe from watching too much internet porn. But they come with the mentality that European women are just actresses in one big porno orgy for the benefit and entertainment of men of their kind, of Muslim and men of their ilk and description. There have been numerous problems in the nightclubs, in particular, both inside and outside the nightclubs throughout Europe. We heard about this at first in Munich, where some nightclubs started to restrict entry by migrants, which raised a howl from the so-called civil rights groups, which are liberals, which are corrupt, very corrupt individuals, self-hating individuals who have tend to have a large contempt for the local populations of Europe. And so they raised a howl about restrictions on the presence of migrants. But the problem is that these migrants are attacking women inside the nightclubs, touching these women, whether these women want to be touched or not, to the point that it makes it very, very unpleasant and dangerous to go to a nightclub in cities where there's a large migrant population. So, you can't even go out and have fun anymore, apparently, in some of these cities. I mean, who want to go to the carnival in Cologne that's scheduled for February? But, it's not only nightclubs in Denmark, not only nightclubs in Sweden, not only nightclubs in Germany and southern Germany. I mean, it's also in the swimming pools. Calais, in northern France, where they have a municipal run pool facilities. The authorities, the municipal authorities, try to restrict the entry to non-residents. And why did they do that? Because there were so many reports and so many complaints involving migrants who go to these facilities and expose themselves in front of the young ladies in the facilities, masturbate in front of them. In some cases, try to touch or be indecent or lewd towards these women. I mean, we're talking about Calais. You see. I mean, you can see how these guys behave towards the truckers. The truckers going into the UK. I mean, they throw things at them. They throw metal poles. They attack the truckers with knives, with any weapon that they may have access to. They break their windows, they break open the rears of their trucks, just acting like complete savages. So you can imagine if these truckers, who are burly, tough men, have such a daily problem with these migrants. You can just imagine what type of a chance a young, a teenage girl in a bathing suit stands against these people. But it's not just Calais, because the same swimming pool attacks are being reported in Germany, where again, a young lady was recently raped by just a complete stranger in a swimming pool, who tore off her bathing suit. I mean, these attacks happen almost in public, because these guys can't control themselves. Now, the response of the we're talking about Angela Merkel types, so they're not really that bright. So their response to these outrages is, oh well, these migrants, they do not understand European culture. So if we just give them a manual entitled "How Not to Rape," then the problem will be solved. If we just teach them about European values, about German values, if we maybe just have them sign a form and they're going to learn German, then the problems will go away, because we just need to re-educate them. It's as if these European authorities, these liberal types, these moral cockroaches that run Europe, unfortunately, in many countries, they have no clue. I mean, absolutely no clue. We know. I mean, it is by now well established that the rehabilitation of sexual deviants, of sexual predators, is extremely difficult. Most sexual predators, you incarcerate them and they go on to reoffend. And that's after they've gone through prison and they've paid their a long sentence. They paid their dues to society, and then they come out of prison, and they, more often than not, unless they get chemically castrated, they go out and they reoffend. And that's been a problem with sexual predators all over the place. But now, because we're dealing with sexual predators who are Muslim, the rules must be different. These liberals think. And these, unfortunately, are the people who open up the borders and who invited these people over. These Angela Merkel types. So there you have it. That's the situation that we face right now here in Europe. Now, there has been consternation in the legal community as to the authority that Angela Merkel had without any democratic input to just bring down the borders, fundamentally alter and transform the entire character of a nation of upwards of 88 million people. And there's an argument even that if under the German Constitution, if the authorities are not upholding the Constitution and are not protecting the borders and are not protecting the country, then citizens have a right to take matters into their own hands. I mean, that is called vigilante justice. That's what you do when the police does not work. Now, in Europe, we have a contract, a social contract that says that you will follow the law. And if you have a problem with somebody, you will refer that problem to the police and the police will deal with it. You will not take matters into your own hand. But because the police and the authorities are, nobody has been caught. Nobody has been, nobody is in jail over what happened in Cologne. And we're talking about 650 victims already. Because the police have apparently lost control of the situation, and millions of these migrants are coming over, and no realistic solution is being proposed by Angela Merkel and her crew. Some citizens have taken things into their own hands, and that's unfortunate, but that's what will happen. Because, in the absence of police, in the absence of authority, how do you respond to sexual predators? What do you do with them? Well, it's very easy. In the old days, you just got rid of them. You shot them. And then you just dug up a ditch someplace, and you put them there so that they wouldn't stink up the fields. That's how you deal with sexual predators. So, if the authorities in Europe want to restrain that natural impulse from the people in Europe, they better come up with solutions. They need to come up with solutions. Otherwise, we're confronted with disorder and disobedience and lawlessness, and that is the last thing that we need here in Europe. I mean, that will give rise to the predictions of that famous politician in the UK, Powell, and within a speech that he delivered to the House of Commons entitled "Rivers of Blood." And that's not where we want to go. All right, take care, guys.